Am I the asshole since I won't let my sister have my computer or use my car? Update. There are a lot of holes that I missed due to the word constraint and, mostly, my inability to form proper sentences. I will probably end up rewriting this. Thank you to everyone that commented. I really appreciate it. And #X200B. Background. My sister just finished her undergrad and going to grad in a few months. I just finished community and am going to state. Her master's is at a different college. And #X200B. This past weekend my sister came down from college after graduation. She drives a 2008 Mercedes C300 that was everybody's, but my first car. And #X200B. When I was 16, I had been working a lot and saved up a lot of money and bought myself my attainable dream car, a 2004 BMW E46 M36 MT, and drove that to and from school. My 23F and 25F sisters shared the Mercedes. About 3 years later, I bought my second, and now attainable, dream car, a 2013 BMW E92 M3. I still own my 2004 M3 as well, with the double-clutch transmission. And #X200B. Fast forward to this weekend. My sister complained of car problems, she always does, and asked me the night before she left if she could use my car, the 2013, since it doesn't have the third pedal. I told her no. And #X200B. She went to talk to my dad, who at this point was asleep. She came back and bugged me for about 15 minutes. Also note that this is my finals week, so I'm stressed and writing a lot of essays ATM. And I said no is no, so go to bed. She complained, but soon left. And #X200B. Additionally, I have 2 desktops, not really cheap to build either, high-spec. One is for 3D modeling and layout design as I'm an EE, and the second one is more as a mini home server. There's a ton of computers connected to the server one, so it's fairly slow. She also bugged me about taking one, but I told her no. And #X200B. Now I get that it may seem cut and dry one-sided, but a few things to consider. She needs a computer, she has an old MacBook Pro but needs Windows for college. Her car is really broken. Her passenger seat doesn't work. Exhaust was bent when she was rear-ended, shifts weird, passenger airbag light sporadically appears. Control arms are bad, suspension shot, steering rack bad. Bent rims, gone through 3 wheels in the past 2 years, but I'm more certain that it's the driver. Engine overheated once, steering rack is meh, fairly sloppy steering. She is getting a car in the future, gift by my parents. Don't ask. But can't afford it now because cost is through the roof. Also, this was not a permanent thing. Maybe a few weeks. I am a car guy too, and where she lives now is full of potholes and other crap, and I'm nervous that she will break something, and being a BMW not under warranty. Basically I'll go bankrupt. And #X200B. Now I fully own my cars, title in my name. But the computers are not mine by payment, my dad gave them to me. She also really can't afford either, as she wastes a lot of her money on unnecessary things. And #X200B. My oldest sister, 27F. That I respect a lot, is siding with her, whilst 25F sister, I'm on good terms but don't get along great with her, sides with me. And #X200B. I don't know. Am I in the wrong? Tell me you're rich without telling me you're rich. Not the asshole. One thing you are right about is that it is cut and dried. Your car, your choice of who gets to drive it. The computers isn't really all that different, even based on your still paying for them. If you had a loan with the bank wouldn't take it away while your payments are up to date and let another customer use it just because they nagged enough. Make sure you keep track of your keys, as too many people think that an extra is available for their use whether they have permission or not. This reminds me of my mother having to sleep on her purse to keep that safe when my older brother thought he was entitled to her money and her keys. ETA not the asshole. A bit for the car thing. You have 2 cars and she has 0, and she asked to use it for a few weeks but you said no just because? The computer one is more understandable, and not the asshole for that one. Info. Are there any specific reasons you're saying no to her? Not the asshole. You bought your cars with your own money. They are yours. You decide who does and doesn't drive them. Same with the computers. They were gifted to you. They are yours. My 21-year-old son is a gearhead. He owns 4 vehicles. They are his. When his 18-year-old brother's car broke down, he and I shared my car. His older brother wasn't asked to give up one of his toys. I don't understand this entitlement that says you get other people's stuff just because you can't get your own. I have to basically resist my instinct here because this really sounds like rich people first world problems. It's like, oh no, a 2008? My last car was a 1996 Impala. Anyways. Not the asshole. No one is entitled to your stuff. Not the asshole. Tell your sister she can load Windows on her old MacBook Pro by using Boot Camp. It's also already an installed app in her utilities folder. All she'll need is a licensed Windows installer, and enough empty disk space to install it. My old Mac Mini that I got in 2010 can run Windows 7. Her Mac can probably do better. My oldest sister, 27F, that I respect a lot, is siding with her, whilst 25F sister, I'm on good terms but don't get along great with her, sides with me. Then she can pay for the car and the computer. Also, if the computers were gifted to you, then it doesn't matter who paid for them. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for telling my coworkers not to apologize for inviting everyone at work to their party but me? Some coworkers threw a party as a celebration for finishing a huge work project and also as a going-away party for a coworker who is leaving for military basic training soon. We all work overnight shifts and everyone was invited, and some people from the closing shift as well. The past few weeks I've heard everyone planning the event and I've put in my suggestions for the party when asked. But no one ever communicated to me the address and agreed upon time, and through the entire planning process I was never asked if I wanted to come or could make it, nor was I counted in the number of planned party guests. So the Monday after the party arrives and I get told by the manager at the morning meeting that I was missed at the party and everyone wants to know why I didn't go. I told them that no one invited or gave me the address and time, so I just assumed when everyone's invites were being texted out that I didn't get one because no one is work friends with me. So it became an awkward silence before a bunch of apologies, and I told everyone not to apologize. I wasn't mad, I wasn't upset. I personally had a great weekend when the party took place, and the last thing I want are apologies that aren't meant. Y'all didn't invite me or check to make sure I knew for a reason, and I'm fine with that. I know we're not friends. I don't say this in malice or any emotion but as fact. It's 67 degrees outside and we're not outside of work friends. So now I'm dealing with an awkward situation of half my coworkers calling me an asshole and the other half now going above and beyond to try and befriend me after almost 8 months of working together. My manager is taking it the hardest and has been calling me into private meetings nearly every day about why I didn't feel comfortable enough to ask for an invite or why I didn't speak out and make sure I was invited to a party I was helping plan. Because now I made everyone at work feel like assholes when this whole thing could have been avoided. Am I the asshole? Edit, more info. About the invitation, party planning questions. I'm one of the more detail-oriented people on the team, so whenever we plan the work schedules or the minor project schedules between the different groups I'm involved and help keep people on track throughout the projects and workweek. When the party was being planned, I was asked to help out every now and again and asked to help give responsible party suggestions since a lot of coworkers were opting for things like an open bar and, bitches, for everyone asking why I didn't ask for the address beforehand. I've planned parties before and haven't been invited. I've asked for more details before with parties, different job parties, college parties, group chat planning parties, etc. and have been told that I wasn't invited. I've also been in a lot of situations where I'm texting and calling people the day of the party trying to get the address and time but never getting a straight answer from anyone. It sucks, but after it happened for quite a few years I just stopped asking because it's just a painfully embarrassing situation to be in. Not the asshole. They neglected to invite you and you were fairly gracious about it. It's bizarre that your boss is trying to turn it on you and question why you didn't ask for an invite. That's an incredibly awkward expectation. I understand why you find the apologies annoying, but it may have been a genuine oversight. Their regret might be genuine. Nah. But if it was a work-related party, and everyone was talking about it, I would have either assumed I was invited or said to someone, "Hey, I didn't get the text. Is this an event I'd be welcome to attend?" This isn't the kind of party you're supposed to wait for a formal invitation for. Edit. A word. Not the asshole. I think your response was reasonable. You don't sound bitter or upset about it, and that's probably making them think that you're harboring upset and anger about being excluded. As for the "why didn't you ask?" I'd never do that. If my sister was planning her wedding and I didn't get an invite, I'd assume there's a reason and not ask about it. I'm not willing to walk into an awkward situation where they stammer some sort of half-assed response about, "Well, we're not friends outside of work," or some other thing. If we're talking my sister, I think you handled it well. Not the asshole, but only barely. You sound incredibly passive-aggressive, and the person who describes themselves in this post is not somebody I'd enjoy being around. NTA, if your honesty made them uncomfortable, that's their problem. It wasn't a big deal and they are blowing it out of proportion. You are the asshole. We all work overnight shifts and everyone was invited, and some people from the closing shift as well. Everyone was invited. Everyone includes you. Why I didn't speak out and make sure I was invited to a party I was helping plan. You were actually on the planning team for this party. That makes you a de facto guest of the party. Since everyone was invited to this party you helped plan, why do you need some kind of special invitation? What you did was passive-aggressive and petty and created a problem with all your coworkers. I suspect that was exactly your intention. No assholes here edited early on. Guess I'll go first. Just ask next time. You're making this a pity party when you could have just asked for all the above details. We'll be nice and say no one is the asshole here, but there are some lessons you can learn. Op. Am I the asshole for telling my husband he is the most useless person I've ever met? I, 22F. Married my husband, 30M. Last year, and we have been living with my parents to save up for a down payment on a house. He is not from my country, and his first language is not English, but he went to university and his language skill is good enough for his professional job. He is a hard worker, and overcame a lot of barriers coming here. However, he has a victim mindset that he can't do anything because of his perceived language barrier, so he expects me to do everything. I do everything for his immigration application, including all communication with our immigration attorney, making sure evidence is organized and filed on time, and checking the case status. We recently saved up enough to buy a house, and I am the only one who is reading the WA documentation, contacting the property manager, arranging the HO insurance and loan documents. I also applied for jobs for him since he didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. On top of this, we both work full-time, and I am pursuing a graduate degree. My husband does work longer hours than I do. On top of this, I manage most of the household with my parents. He does laundry and cooks for himself. I have asked him to be more active in our marriage and what needs to be done. He always says I am nagging and lecturing him, and he doesn't know what to do, and that it's easier for you because you grew up here. 2 nights ago I lost my patience when I asked him yet again to take a more active role, and he said, "Why can't you just take care of it and tell me what I can do to help?" I tried to tell him he isn't supposed to help me purchase our house or with his immigration application. He's supposed to be a partner who understands what needs to be done. I explained to him that I didn't know anything about buying a house or the immigration process before, but I took the time to communicate, ask questions, and do research to understand what needs to be done. I suggested he start by reading the WA bylaws, and he told me he can't understand because of his English. I told him that I understand they're not easy to read, but he can definitely ask me questions. He said that's too much work, and that it's easier for both of us if I just tell him. I told him I prefer to be partners and figure these things out together. He said, "Fine, I'll read your stupid bylaws so you stop nagging me." I lost my temper at his attitude and told him I'm exhausted and that he's the most useless person I've ever met, like a parasite taking credit for all the things I do. He likes to brag to his friends about how he overcame so many struggles in a foreign country to be where he is today, including buying a house and working at his prestigious job. He left the house after saying he can't be with someone who personally attacks him, and he hasn't communicated with me since, not even to tell me where he is or if he's safe. Maybe I crossed the line, and should have been more patient and controlled my anger, but I still feel he needed a reality check too. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. So at 29 he married a 21-year-old so she could be his new mommy maid. Please don't procreate with this guy. He is telling you who he is. He doesn't want to do paperwork or cook or clean or be an adult. Please listen to him and believe him. He's gonna make you do all the mental labor in the relationship forever. Please read these, and think about how much he doesn't respect you or care about the burden he puts on you. Not the asshole. I'm going to be blunt. He's not going to get any better. Can you imagine what raising kids will be with a guy who'll keep insisting that you can do such and such better? I frankly think that you would be better off leaving now. You haven't bought the house yet, right? Yeah, don't. It makes separating easier. Not the asshole. But do you see this marriage lasting if he does not become more independent? Do you think this will be something you can live with? When you have a house, pets or kids? Not the asshole. It sounds as though you have very different expectations from your partnership, and whether they are founded in cultural expectation, misogyny, or something else, if these aren't resolved it will be painful for you both. Have you got friends, family around who can support you at the NTA? He basically expects you to be his personal assistant, not a partner or anything. He needs to learn that he needs to put on his big boy pants and be a responsible adult. Marriage works both ways. He's taking advantage of you hardcore. He only left cause you called him out on his crap. You need to seriously evaluate the relationship, and if you want to basically be his assistant, or if you want to be on your own without him being a parasite. Oh geez, please do not buy a house or conceive a child with this man. Until he changes, assume he's not going to change and decide if this is really what you want for your life. NTA. Info. How old were you when you met? Is he using you for a green card? Honestly, it sounds like you've adopted a 16-year-old and not married a partner. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for saying I'm not lucky that I was adopted? I, 25M, was adopted from another country at age 5 by my biological aunt and her husband and then taken to live in the US. It was really confusing at the time and no one did anything to really explain it to me. We'd celebrate my adoption every year, but no one explained I was never going home until I was 10. The other issue was, my uncle, adoptive father, didn't want to adopt me. He was in his 50s when they adopted me and had no interest in parenting. Never came to anything at school or activities. He made my aunt pay for babysitters when she worked because he didn't want to take care of me. She admitted this when I was older. My aunt wasn't much better. She was caring and kind, but she refused to let me speak my native language and essentially erased my culture because it made my white uncle feel uncomfortable. I wasn't allowed to play with other kids my age outside of school and was forced to spend all my time with her friends. I wasn't allowed to invite kids my age to parties, have them over or go to their house. She wouldn't let me play any type of sport or even do any activities, not because of money but because, you can just spend time with us. If I ever questioned why I couldn't have a life outside them or why she didn't want me speaking my native tongue, she began guilting me about how lucky I was to be adopted, that she loved me enough to change her life at 50 and I don't need anyone else. When I was a teen, I began pulling away. I relearned my first language and joined clubs to learn more about my culture. I saved up to visit home for the first time in a while and reconnected with my biological mother. In college, I joined a support group for adoptees and was told the trauma and erasure I feel is common. I started therapy and have been doing a lot better. I slowly pushed my aunt and uncle away. I don't even call them mom and dad anymore. We only speak around holidays. My birthday was last week and I didn't want to see them, but my aunt guilted me into going out to eat. I brought my girlfriend along who has never met my parents and knows why I don't like them. It didn't take long for my aunt to mention this was the first time we were seeing each other since Christmas. I ignored it at first, but she kept harping on it, saying I missed my adoption day. I said I don't celebrate that day. My aunt asked why. I've told her before I'm in therapy for the trauma surrounding my adoption and I repeated it. She said I should be so lucky she adopted me from a poverty-stricken country and took care of me so well. I said I wasn't lucky, and given that my entire childhood was spent in isolation and having my culture erased for the benefit of my white uncle, I don't know if it was a good one. Better than poverty, but that doesn't make it amazing by default. My aunt and uncle are of course mad at me, which I expected. My girlfriend says I shouldn't have gotten into all of that at dinner and that I am being a little ungrateful. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Not in the least. You speaking about your experiences and the trauma and neglect you experienced at their hands is yours to talk about. They can be mad all they want. You and your mental health are infinitely more important than their hurt feelings in the face of the reality of what they put you through. Your girlfriend is a bit of an asshole too, while we're at it. So obviously and 100% not the asshole. Your aunt and uncle definitely are, as is your GF. Children owe no gratitude towards those who raise them, that's earned. Adoption adds a level of trauma no matter what else is part of a person's childhood, and what you're describing as your childhood sounds really tough in so many ways. I'm glad you found support for adoptees and I hope you continue to heal. Not the asshole. People don't realize how much trauma is associated with adoption. It's not this magical be-all end-all solution for which you should be grateful. Not the asshole. No parent should make their child feel like raising them is doing them some big favor. I'm so sorry. Maybe your girlfriend is right that dinner wasn't the time or place to get into this though. But your feelings certainly seem justified. Was the reason you were sent to them to the US, because of your mother's living situation and not being able to provide for you? I'm sorry about how they raised you. I know plenty of people who were adopted, including family members who were adopted. But they all were allowed to have a childhood, friends, sports and so on. I'm not sure why your aunt and uncle were like that, and perhaps that is a long overdue conversation. Unfortunately, it sounds like they might be unwilling to discuss it. But I do believe you are owed why they didn't allow you to go to friends' houses or to play sports. That all pretty normal stuff for kids to do growing up. Not the asshole, you have every right to feel how you feel. As for being ungrateful, the circumstances of your raising makes it difficult to be grateful. They did raise you, but restricted and limited you, plus worked diligently to erase your identity because of your racist uncle. It sounds like your aunt did, at least in her mind, her best. It bothers me to hear so many younger people bitch about some minor part of their childhood. Their parents did their best, no one is perfect. However, this is not your case. You were not given what might come close to a normal childhood. Your aunt kept pushing you about that adoption day bullshit, and to your credit, you did not go there immediately. When you did, you told her the truth. No, you are not the asshole. You are not some puppy she adopted from the pound. You were a 5-year child with a language and culture. I'm glad you've been able to reconnect with some of it. Not the asshole. No one should be grateful for being adopted beyond the gratitude that everyone has towards their parents. Much like having a bio kid, if you don't want the joy of parenthood, don't adopt. If you think parenting is a favor you do for your kids, don't have them. The fact is, they weren't good adoptive parents, and you don't have to put on a show of gratitude for something you're not grateful for. They erased your culture for their convenience and refused to acknowledge or apologize for the hurt they caused.